Creations Knitting Podcast. This is episode 72. We have a lot of new viewers, so I want to welcome you to our knitting group. And for those of you who have been with me for a while, thank you for tuning in each week. I have no foes this week because I had several last week. So we are going to get started, but I have several works in progress to talk about. And we have a yarn giveaway to talk about. And all kinds of stuff. And we have a tutorial. So we have a pretty much packed episode. So let's get started. First thing I thought I would tell you about is what I am wearing. This is a sweater that I knit. I did not use a pattern, and there was an episode quite a while back on how to knit a sweater without using a pattern. And if you look at the little I card, the little letter I will pop up in the corner here. If you click that, that will take you to that link where you can watch that episode. I also have the pattern available on Ravelry. It's called Basic Sweater Pattern. If you go in the links below and click in the description box under patterns, it will take you to all of my patterns. If you decide to buy one of them, some of them are free, but if you decide to buy one of them, use the coupon code KC10. It'll give you 10% off. So this was knit from acrylic that I bought at Joann's. You could get it at Walmart. This is I think it's Red Heart's pound of yarn. It's the great big thing. It's about $10, and if you get a coupon with it, you can get a little bit more off. This was basically knit in 2 rectangles, and then you attach the sleeves, which is why the sleeves are like a kind of a dropped sleeve, and I will stand up so you can see it. The pattern that I kind of wrote actually is for a boat neck, so I did change the collar on it, and the original did not have a pattern in this section. This was just a plain shell pattern, and I'll show it up close in a minute so you can see it. And it has 3/4 length sleeves, and I put a lace edging to it. So I'm going to stand up so you can see it, what it looks like. It is a little bit short on me. I'm very short-waisted to begin with, and I'm a little top-heavy, shall we say. Well, I'm heavy all over the place, but I'm especially top-heavy, so a pound of yarn probably would have worked for most people, but parts of me take up more than a pound of yarn. So anyway, that being said, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, as you can see, this is short. I mean, this is where my belly button is, so it falls right about just above my belly button. So it is a little bit shorter. It's certainly not cropped. It's got 3/4 length sleeves. This has a scooped neckline. So this is what it looks like. And when I get up close, I will show you the pattern. This is just a simple shell pattern. It looks like a cable, but it really isn't. It's like a fake cable. I think it's a 4-row repeat. And here is the lace edging. Right here. So, and I just thought that added something to the pattern a little bit to add the edging. I do not have edging on the sleeves. There I just have the plain rib stitching. So, that is what I am wearing. Last week I showed you my poncho, and there was a poncho dilemma as to what I should do with the sides of it, because the pattern called for the sleeves to be left kind of split and hanging open, which I wasn't overly thrilled about, but they just look too wingish. And so I asked you guys to kind of give me some advice. Pretty much, I think, it was almost 95% of you told me, sew it all the way down, sew the sides down all the way. So I'm making a compromise, because actually one of the viewers had an excellent idea that kind of did the best of both worlds, and that was Yoka. So thank you, Yoka. This was a great idea that I had not even thought about. I'm going to sew the sides of the poncho about 3/4 of the way down, and leave an opening about this wide, about this long in the seam, and then right at the base of the side, about 1 inch, I'm going to reattach. So I'm basically going to have a hole so that I can wear this so it looks like a poncho that is, you know, sewed all the way shut, like most ponchos are. But because I have these little slit openings in the seams down by the ends, I can slide my hands through those holes. So if I want it to be more snuggly and up against my arms, I can actually slide my arms through the holes, like little hand holes for my hands to go out, so that it will be a little bit more cozy that way. So it'll work as a regular poncho, or I can make it almost like it has sleeves. So that was her suggestion, and I thought, well, that's kind of the best of both worlds, because I was leaning it, seaming it all the way down, and she was like, leave enough open that you could slide your hand through. And I was like, that will do it. That would be great. So I have to do that yet, but thank you all for your input in that. Now let's get to the good stuff. Works in progress. First, I'm working on the Keeping You in Stitches shawl that I have been working on. I'm officially through my first ball of yarn. The original pattern that I wrote calls for fingering weight. This is actually, I think it's soft weight. Let me see. It's sport weight, which is very similar to soft weight. And this is in Cloudborne Highland Sport. And this is in the Caribbean or Caribbean colorway, which is kind of a dark turquoise. And I've gotten quite a bit knit on this week. Here is where I was last week. So this is where it started. And so I've gone through 1, 2, I was on the 3rd section last week. I finished the 4th section. I'm actually in this is normally a striping section, because this was written for a colored pattern shawl, and I'm doing it in a solid color, so where the striping would be, I'm just putting some random eyelet lace just so it doesn't look so boring. So anyway, this is it so far, and the color's pretty true to color today, so that's good. Now the original pattern, like I said, was written for fingering weight, so it called for around 630 yards, and you were knitting it on, I believe, size 4, if I remember. This is size 6, and because the yarn is heavier, I actually bought 4 skeins of yarn, so I have about 800 yards, because I know it's going to take a little bit more, so I'd rather err on the side of overabundance and just have extra yarn than cut it too short. So I have 3 more balls left, and here's what it looks like. So if I hold it back there, if you get better color, it still looks blue, but it's actually a deep turquoise. So, and the bag, all the yarn's jumping out at me. This is a Keeping You in, or no, Keeping You in Stitches. That would be the name of the pattern. Now this is Stitchin' You bags. She does have an Etsy shop, and you can see the bag has little teacups, and the inside is just like plain blue. It has some little flowers, I think, in the pattern. And she also included a lavender sachet. And on the zipper, I don't have it on here, but there was a little charm that you could take off and use as a progress keeper. So, and I don't think, no, I'm not using the progress keeper I've got on here is the one Kathy gave me. So thank you again, Kathy. I'm getting lots of use out of it. But I have a little one that came on the bag that has a little teapot on it. So, yeah. And again, I got this. She sells on Etsy. This I actually won in a giveaway. So, yeah. Anyway, it's cute. I like it. It's the only zippered bag that I have. So I have that. Then I've been working on a project that I started when we went on vacation last fall. And then I put it away and completely forgot about it. And that is the Drachenfels. So let me show you. That is by Melanie Berg. Here's what it looks like. Melanie Berg also did the On the Spice Market. So I have 2 patterns from her. And I've made this, as I said, I've made this shawl before. I've made On the Spice Market twice. I love Melanie Berg's patterns. She has a lot of them available over on Ravelry. Very well written. They are not charted. They are just written. But they're very, very well put together. They're very easy to follow. And I really enjoy them. here's a picture of what the shawl looks like. It is a 3-color shawl. So here you can see a little bit better. Has a lot of striping, and there's like some design work, which you'll see up on, I'll show on mine in just a few minutes. You can't see it in the pictures as well as you can up close. So the colors of the yarn I am using for this are, let me pull them out real quick. This bag that I have here is a Birdie and Poppet bag, and I won this bag as well. I've won 3 different giveaways, so I never usually win things, but over the last year I've won 3 different giveaways. So the yarn that I'm making this out of, I have, these are Knit Picks Hawthorne, Knit Picks Hawthorne in the fingering weight. This one is called Andromeda Speckle, and it's gray, and it has like purple, kind of magenta, more so than purple. Magenta little specks, and there's green in there. You can see, there you go. There you can see it well. So I have that, and then this is called Turkish Delight, and it's just a tonal kind of magenta. There's some light and some dark. You can see it's kind of mixed. So these 2 were meant to go together. And then along with the giveaway, another giveaway that I won from Must Love Yarn, where I got a little bag and some Woolen Vine yarn, and she sent 3 skeins of yarn in it. I got this. This is all that's left. This is my main color, and this is sold by, it's called yarnandsoul.com, and the color is just a solid magenta color. It's very soft, so I think there's some alpaca in this. The colorway is just 3032. It doesn't have a name, and it is just magenta, and it does have a little bit of a halo to it because it feels like it has alpaca in it. Like I said, it's very, very soft. So this is what the 3 look like together. And now I'll show you what the shawl looks like so far. I had gotten a good ways into the shawl before I stopped on vacation. So let me show you. This is the beginning part of the shawl, and here's the detail I was telling you about. This is supposed to look like the dragon tail, because Drachenfels is means dragon's hill in German, and there is a hill in Germany called Drachenfels, and so this is the dragon tail. And then here's some more of the same patterning, and I'll get this up close so you can kind of see it. It's like almost like little dash marks going across here, and then there's a solid line on each side. So there's several of those, and you can see from the stitch marker, this is where I was when we came back from vacation. And so I have knit, I can't open it all the way up because it would come off the needles, but I'm now into a striping section right here. So you can see over here. Now, right in here, it does look like it's a little puckered. It's because of the edging that's on here, because this is where your increases are, and that will go away when I block this. So, because you can see how much stretch is in this. So once I block this, this will all come out. My Keeping You in Stitches shawl does the exact same thing. It tends to pucker until you block it. So this is really, really soft. So it's going to, you know me in purple. I'm going to love this. So that is the other project that I picked back up. So let me move these out of the way. And I wanted to show you the other Drachenfels that I made. I made this about a year ago. This is on some of my very beginning podcasts. And so here it is. And this one, the mistake I made with this yarn, and I don't remember what this yarn was. I got it on vacation a few years ago. I loved these different variegated browns. It was just, the one skein was red, and it had different shades of red. It even has kind of a pink color in here. And then it had these pops of tan, which you can see right in here. With that, I bought a solid color of tan in the exact same color, which sounds like it would be great, except the way that the red pools in some places, the stitches don't show up as well because they all kind of blend together. So here you can see those same kind of striping lines. You can see it there, you can see it here, but they don't show up as defined as they do in the solid color. And because of the way it pulled, you can see some funny speckles like right in here. You can see where it really kind of made it, it didn't look as good as it could, especially right down in here. You can see where the colors pooled kind of funny right in the middle of the striping, because my solid color was so close to the same, it was almost exact color as the brown that was in the red, that it just doesn't even show up. It looks like I spilled something on it and it all discolored or something. But I do like this. It is a very good sized shawl. So here it is, all the way out. And you can see this one does not have the puckering. And I do wear this a good bit. I really like it. I like the reds in it. So, and this is very soft. It's very drapey. And like I said, when it blocks out, the stretchiness kind of goes away a little bit. So yeah, there is the Drachenfels. And I'll stand up and hold it out so you can see it a little bit better. It has a good enough wingspan that it really does wrap around quite a few times. So that's what this one that I'm making is going to look like, except in purple. Now I have one other project that I am working on, and this is one I had not even started last week, but I was watching two different podcasters. One I was watching is called Little Big Knits, which if you've ever watched Two Tangled's Games, every so often there is a third person on that podcast named Selma. And Selma has a podcast called Little Big Knits. So she announced that she was going to be doing a knit along, and she wanted people to make something that was at least 57% plant fiber. And then I was also watching what was it? Cozy Up with the Stitchin' Sisters. And they wanted to do a spring project that involved like cotton or lightweight yarns. So I thought, one of the items that I had put on my Make 9 list for this year. Make 9 means different projects. I have a list of 9 things that I really am determined I want to make this year. One of those was some knitting with some cotton. So I thought, well, this is a good opportunity because I could knit this thing for myself to be able to use this spring and summer. I could write it up as a pattern design, and I could enter it into 2 knit along. So why not? So let me show you what I'm making. I have shown this yarn before. It is called Online. And it's pronounced Liney, I believe. I don't think it's Liney. I think it's Liney 362 Donita or Donita. And this is what it looks like. And that's pretty true to color. I'm about halfway through the first ball. It reminds me of spatterware, which is like tinware that's cobalt blue and they spatter white paint on it. It's just really, really pretty. It's a cobalt, kind of a cross between cobalt blue and denim. And I am knitting, at least this is what I'm hoping it's going to turn out to. I'm hoping it's going to be a cowl. But I don't want it to be just your straight type of cowl. I want like a kerchief front, like the type that come down to a point, like when you wrap your shawl around. I want that, but I don't want all the bulkiness around my neck. So I am hoping when I finish, that's what it's going to turn out as. I am writing this as a pattern as I go. So here is the top, and it starts out in a garter stitch. This is going to be triangular, and then it has some little holes you can see there. And then I'm at a ribbing stitch in the center, right in here. And then right down here, I am working on another, like an eyelet type of section. So here it is so far. This is top from the top down, so it will go to the point. So in other words, this is the top, this is the point when it comes off the needle. So here's what it looks like so far. So if I can hold this well without it dropping out of my hands. There you go. That's what it looks like so far. And it's kind of neat because where it's real light in this white section right in here, that's like striping all the way across. So it's really turning out well. And that's, let me swing it up close so you can see how it looks when it's knit. So I'm thinking this will go well with, you know, I wear a lot of blue and navy, and I do have some jeans and stuff, and like a jean skirt and things. So that's what I'm hoping it will turn into. So I don't have a name for it yet. It will be available as a pattern once I finish it and knit it a second time to make sure it all looks good. So we'll go from there. So that is this cowl that I have been working on. Now I do not have any show and tell this week. Show and tell for you, those of you who are new viewers, I do have a Facebook page. It's called Katrina Knits, and if you want to post over there, you just request to be a friend. I'll friend you, and then you can post pictures. Lots of people are posting their things over there. But if you don't have Facebook and you'd still like to show everybody your project, you can send me an email with the pictures, and my email is KatrinasCreations@yahoo.com. And if you send me something over there, then I will post the picture here on the podcast for everybody to see. Just give me enough information about it, what pattern it is or something, so I can tell everybody if you would like it to appear on the podcast. So that's our show and tell section. But instead of that, since I don't have any show and tell, I had somebody ask me a while back if I did Tunisian crochet, and yes, I do. I don't do it very much, but I do have a full set of crochet hooks for Tunisian crochet, which is a little different than regular crochet. I bought a whole set of them for under $10. They're wooden, and they have the cable. You'll see them, and you'll see the Tunisian crochet hook in the picture. Actually, I can show it to you. I bought a full set of these off of eBay. I think there's like 8 or 10 of them in the set. These have the cable, and they have like a bead at the end, and they have a wooden end here. I think they're bamboo. And then they have the size. This one is a 5.5 millimeter. Yeah, and they have it just etched into it. And like I said, I got this off of eBay probably a year or more ago. So, and it was under $10 for the full set. So, anyway, I'm going to post that tutorial now and show you, it shows in the tutorial a couple of projects that I've made with the Tunisian crochet. So, I'll put that in here so you can check it out. Before I get started with our Tunisian crochet tutorial, I wanted to give you a little bit of the history of Tunisian crochet. It's also called Afghan crochet, and it uses what is called an Afghan hook. It was believed that the stitch and the process and technique was created by shepherds, but there's no proof of this. It was used in the Victorian times, but it was called by different names. The French finally coined the word Tunisian crochet in 1922, but there was no evidence that was ever tied to Tunisia. Don't know where it came from. The other names that it's been called over the years have been shepherd's knitting, tricot stitch or tricot stitch, railway, and the idiot or fool stitch. The names were well established by the 1930s as the Tunisian crochet. The interest died out in the 1930s, but again it became popular in the 1960s and early 1970s. Then again it died out, and then it became an interest again in the 1980s. Then it died back out, and now there's an interest for it again. Tunisian crochet has been around for a while, but at least for 150 years, but because it really hasn't caught on like knitting or crochet, and it's been known by several different names over the years, it hasn't gotten a stronghold the way knitting and crocheting have. So before we get started, I thought I would show you also a couple of the stitches, what they can look like. The traditional Tunisian crochet is a heavy stitch that you would use for making blankets. If you were going to do a pocketbook and then shrink it, if you were going to make it with wool, this would be a good technique to use. Because Tunisian crochet is almost woven in the solid basic stitch form, and this is called the Afghan stitch, it is thicker. It's almost twice as thick, and here you can see how it looks almost woven. It doesn't look knitted, it doesn't look crocheted, it looks woven. And it is almost twice as thick as your traditional knitting or your crochet. But it doesn't have to look solid like this. It can also look lacy. This is done with a raw silk. And as you can see, this is a very lacy stitch. So there are many different stitches that go along with Tunisian crochet, but because there's so many, there's just no way I could show all of those. So we are going to learn the basic beginning Afghan stitch. The Afghan hook or Tunisian crochet hook can look a couple of different ways. It can look like a straight knitting needle, like the long knitting needles, with a crochet hook on the end of it. Or, and this is the type that I have, it looks like a common crochet hook, but attached at the end is a cable, like what you would have on a set of circular knitting needles. And at the end is a little bead or a knob of some sort, just to keep the stitches from coming off the end of it. So let's get started with the technique. All right, we are ready to begin. You are going to start with a loop. The beginning parts of Tunisian crochet are just like any other basic beginning for your crochet. You are going to chain stitch the number of stitches on that you need for your project. So in this case, just for the tutorial's sake, I am going to just cast on 20 chains. All right, I have 20 chains in a chain stitch going across here. Now, unlike crochet, where you would just be working with one loop on your needle or two or three at a time, you actually pick up all of these chain stitches all the way across onto your needle, which is why you have the cable here, so that you could pick up as many as you need to. And to do this, all you are going to do is go through the next loop, grab the yarn, and pull it through. Go through the next chain, grab the loop, pull it through. Go through the next chain, grab the loop, and pull it through. And these are just going to be continuing to load up on your needle or your hook. So we're going to continue all the way across until we have all 20. I now have all of the stitches loaded across here. Now again, unlike crochet or knitting where you would turn your work like this and begin again, with Tunisian crochet you never turn your work. You basically are going to load the stitches and then unload the stitches. And how you do this is you are going to take the next loop of yarn, bring it through 2 stitches. Load the next yarn, bring it through those 2 stitches. Load the next thing of yarn, the next loop, go through 2 stitches. Load the next, go through 2 stitches. So you are loading and unloading the stitches for each row. and wrap, go through 2 loops, wrap, go through 2 loops. Now, if you look closely, you can see this forms little like bars right in here, which is kind of where I think it came up with the name. It was at one point called railway or rail tracks or railroad. I think that's why. It looks like railroad tracks. Now, again, unlike crochet where you would be picking up your stitches along the top, you actually are going to be going into these bars to pick up your next row of loops. So you already have one. You're going to go through the next bar. So you're actually going into the side, not the top. You're going to go through that bar, grab a loop, bring it through and load it onto your needle. Go through the next bar, grab a loop, pull it through. And again, you will load your needle all the way across, or load your hook. You can tell I'm a knitter for the most part. I keep referring to it as a needle. So you're going to load your hook, going through that bar on the side, all the way across. If I get this really close, you can see going through the bar, grabbing a loop, bring it through that bar and onto the needle. It's actually a very, very simple technique. I think it's easier, at least this stitch is easier than regular crochet. And here I have once again got all of my stitches, and you do want to make sure you count them so that just like with regular crochet, when you get to the end you want to make sure you don't have too many stitches or too few stitches. So we've now picked up those bars, and I'm going to open this so you can see it. You can see that I've gone through the bars here. You can see the bars right along here, and I pulled up the loops. Now we're going to take these stitches off the same way we did before. You do not turn your work. You're going to loop your yarn around and again go through 2 stitches, grab a loop, go through 2 stitches, grab a loop, go through 2, and you're going to go all the way across. The one thing with this stitch, and you can see it starting to happen a little bit, is it does tend to try to curl, and even on the blue project that I showed you that was done in this stitch, it did curl on me. So when you finish this, you do need to steam or press it or really aggressively block it to get it to lay down, because it does tend to curl just as it would if you were knitting a stockinette stitch. With knitting it's going to curl a little bit. There is your second completed row. So here's your first row, and you can see the difference. Once you've opened and closed a row, it's thicker. You can see it's thick right here. Where this row, because I have not picked up the stitches in the bar here, and these little spots in between, it almost looks like eyelet lace. You can see my fingers behind it, where here you cannot. But as soon as you go through for the next row and go through the bar, pick up the stitch and pull it back through, that is what thickens the row when you bring it back out again. So that is the basics of the Tunisian crochet, and this again is called the blanket stitch or Afghan stitch. So I hope you enjoyed that. Now I'm going to do acquisitions. Now spoiler alert, in case you did not watch my midweek Knit Crate unboxing, I do get a monthly Knit Crate subscription. It is, I believe it's $24.95 or $24.99. So it's under $25 by a couple of cents. Anyway, and that includes your shipping, and they send you 2 skeins of yarn and a crochet pattern or a knit pattern that you can use. So in case you want to see that before you see me show it here, if you click on the little eye up here, that will take you to it. Otherwise, we're going to get started, and I'm going to show you what I got. They always have a monthly theme, and this month's theme was Sugar Sugar. And the yarn could come in 1, 2, 3, 4 different colors. So you didn't know which one you were getting. It could have come in Peachy Queen. We're glad I didn't get that one because peach is okay. I'm not a big fan of peach, but it's okay. Blueberry, which was a kind of a light blue. I did see somebody on one of the podcasts, Watch Barbara Knit. That's a fun podcast. If you haven't checked it out, check her out. But anyway, she opened her box and she got the blueberry, which was kind of this color of blue. Well, it's not showing up real blue here. It was almost like a Tiffany blue, a light teal, and it had pops of like navy in it with sparkles. The lavender, which is lavender, that's the one I got, which I'm going to show you. And the other was periwinkle, which was a type of like a pinky purple color. And then they give you 2 patterns. So the crochet pattern was by Brenda Anderson, and it's called Nectarine. So I'm thinking this is the peach one, looking at the picture. These are crocheted socks. And then the knit pattern is by Chelsea Bercampus, and it's called Bloom. And this, I believe, is probably the periwinkle color. And this really looks pretty. I like this pattern. I'm actually not going to use my yarn for that because I found something else it's going to go with, and I'll explain that in a minute. Now, Louisa, who's Louise? She's one of my viewers. I think it's Louise. Anyway, she also gets Knit Crate, and she got the same color I did, and she actually started knitting this. So when you finish it, send us a picture. We'd all love to see. I would love to see what this looks like knit up in case you get it. Since you're working on it, I'm sure you'll get it done before I do. So it looks like it has lace right along the edge here. And then it looks like there's some solid garter up along the top. So it kind of looks like a stole is what it looks like. It doesn't look like it's overly wide, just judging by what I'm seeing at the bottom. So, sorry my fingers go all with which direction. You have to think backwards when you're filming, so what I think I'm pointing at, I'm actually not. So, and you all know I'm directionally challenged. I've showed you that with my cozy memory blanket that went the wrong directions. So now let me show you the yarn that I got. It's called Uru, guess I'm pronouncing that right, Uru yarn, and it is in the lavender colorway. It is a sock. Well, it says sugared sock, but it's a fingering weight. It's superwash, 70% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 10% stellina, which is the sparkly stuff. So here it is. And that is true to color. So it is a real pretty, you know me, love me some purple here. And it's got these kind of dark purple speckles. Let's see if I can open this up a little bit so you can see. There you can see some speckles in there. So they're kind of there's some blue, but there's some, because some of it, when I'm getting in here, some of this is navy blue, and some of it is more, almost like a grape kind of color purple. And here's some here. And then, of course, it's got the sparklies. So it's really pretty. It's really soft. And there is, how many yards here? 399 yards. So altogether, there is 798 yards here. Okay. This was going to get made into that pattern, but then I remembered this was another yarn that I got from, whoops, I just dropped a bunch. Anyway, this is a yarn that I got from Must Love Yarn in one of the giveaways. It's called Wisterious. It does have sparklies in it, as you can see. And it has this kind of muddied color right in here. I think you can see it more over here. See this kind of muddied, funny color? It's an odd color. It really is. So I knew I didn't want it by itself. When I went on vacation though, I found a yarn, and here's the yarn I found, that actually has this color, which isn't showing up real well, but anyway, it has some of the same colors in it. Some of the same, here's some of the same purple kind of washed out color here. It's the same color that's washed out here. There you can see the two seem to go together really well. Now, add this one in it. See if I can hold this up. All three of them together, they all share some of the same colors. So my idea with this, there, I mean, this purple is a little bit brighter, but there are some brighter purples in this one. My thought, and because this has blue and this has some blue, is that these might play well together, and between all four skeins I would have almost a sweater's quantity. Because this I don't have the tag for anymore, but I believe it was around 400 yards. This one is this one's 438 yards, and these are each just 1 yard shy of 400 yards. So I am going to have a little over 1,600 yards here. I have to look through some of my sweater patterns, but I might have enough to make an extremely super soft sweater, like a pullover. I'm thinking I might do Tin Can Knits Flax Light pattern with this, is my thought. But I just think that they're going to go well together, and I would probably kind of stripe them as I go, because I think if I did like one and then the other and then the other, they would not blend well together. But if they kind of intermix as I'm going, then you would see the similarities, like I said, between this color and this color, and I think they would go a lot better. Like this, these two look very, very similar in these colors here. So I think if I kind of stripe through them, it might work. So it is a thought. Still thinking it over, but I do think that they would probably go nicely together. So that's my idea. So that was one thing that I got as an acquisition. I have some other things, but they haven't come in yet. But I thought I'd tell them about them. I've been wanting to make some of those polymer clay stitch markers. They just look like they are not stitch markers, but the progress keepers. You know, the ones that have food on them that look so cute? So I wanted to play with some of that. So I went on eBay, because I really didn't want to spend a whole lot for something that might totally, I don't know how artistic I'm going to be, it might totally not work out. So I bought some polymer clay, and I'm going to try, and some little, like little eye hooks that have screw ends to them, so that you can mold the clay around it and it's not going to go anywhere. At least that's the plan. So I'm going to play with sculpting when it comes in. So I bought some of that, and then I'm updating my needle holders. The needle holder that I've been using, I use almost exclusively circular needles. Now this is the needle holder bag that I've been using for probably about 5 years now. This was an old, it actually was part of my Bible cover and I never finished it, so it's just a quilted, basically a flat piece of quilting. You could use a placemat. You actually could make this with a placemat. The inside for all of my needles, I'll hold this up so you can see it, these are baggies, Ziploc baggies that I got at the dollar store. And I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 on each side. And all I did was tape them down, and then I used some ribbon, some heavy cloth ribbon here, and I sewed it down the spines of the Ziploc bags. So I've got the opening part here, and I sewed right through the Ziploc bags through the back. It is held together fine. It's doing the job. And I actually put little labels just right here for the US size and the millimeter size. And I've got all of my needles housed in here. It's been working fine, except that some of my pointier needles, some of my small ones, because I do have a lot of these little small, tiny ones, these are like below size 0. I have never knit with less than a 0. But anyway, in case I ever do, I've got some. Anyway, some of my size 1s, which is what I use for socks and things, have poked through. I have a couple of these bags that after 5 years they're still working, but they do have a hole or two in them because the needles have actually poked through the top. So my whole thought was I want to have something similar to this that's a little bit more sturdy for some of my pointier needles. I'm still going to use this, but I'm probably going to store just my wooden needles in this because I don't knit with wooden needles all that often, but when I do, I want to be able to get to them. I use my wooden needles for the most part when I am knitting something that's kind of silky or slick, because it gives me a little bit more drag on the needles so that the stitches don't fall off. But my go-to needles are metal. Those are my favorites. So, that in mind, I'm going to keep this for my wooden circulars. And I bought a bunch of these. Now these are small. These are like the 3 by 5. These are like 3 by 5. You use these in planners, you know, for holding pencils. They unzip. I think I just zipped it and still unzipped. Yes, there you go. They unzip and you store pencils and, you know, post-it notes and things like that inside. I bought the 5 by 8 size. Like I said, these are small. But I bought the 5 by 8 size, and they are a heavy-duty vinyl. They had them on eBay for 2 for 99 cents. So I actually bought 7, so I'm getting 14 total. So it was $6.93, I think. And that included free shipping. So I'm going to put those together to hold my metal needles just because it's a little tougher and they won't poke through. Now looking at how wide this is probably about 4 inches tall. These are not going to fit in a book. When I get my needles put into them, I'm actually going to use one of those notebook ring binders or a carabiner and hook them through that. So it just won't have a back like this does. It'll just be the open stitches. And I will probably use a permanent marker or something and just write the stitch marker on here, because I have noticed my stickers are coming off over time too. So that was my plan here. So like I said, I did a little bit of shopping. And if you're interested in doing something like this, I will put the link below to the eBay site that I bought these off of. Like I said, the ones I bought are bigger than this. These I just happen to have around the house and thought I would be able to show them. At least you'll know what I'm talking about. But the ones I'm getting are 5 by 8 inches, so they're more this size. So they'll hold more, because there's no way I could put my circular needles in here. The coils or the cables would not have enough room. So that is my acquisitions. Now to the good stuff. We're going to talk about the yarn giveaway that we are doing. Now, last week's episode, in order to enter, you had to be a subscriber. So if you aren't and you want to enter, click the little red button that says subscribe. If you click the little bell next to it, you will get notifications anytime I post, which is usually on a Saturday unless something exciting happens, like my knit crate unboxing where I post in the middle of the week. But anyway, we talked about a yarn giveaway that is going to be announced on April 7th. So each week you will have an opportunity to enter. 1 entry per week per person. And this is the yarn The yarn is called Nordless. It is a superwash wool. It is Viking of Norway. That is the brand. And this is the colorway, and that is pretty true to color. It's so similarly colored to my hitchhiker that I just made. Yeah, this is not blue. This is purple. It has purple, and it has green, and it has a maroon color in it, and it has like a dark eggplant into a black. So it is really pretty. It's also very, very soft. It is a 75 super wash wool, 25% nylon. So you could make socks out of it if you so desired, because it does have nylon in it. There is a total of 350 meters or 385 yards. It's a 100-gram ball. It is open internationally. It does not have a colorway. It just has a color number, which is 965. I wish when they had colors that were so pretty. I've said this before. They should name them, but they didn't. So anyway, it is color 965. So last week you had to, like I said, be a subscriber. You had to give me a thumbs up and leave a question in the comments for me. Now, some of you left comments but didn't put a question. I didn't want to leave anybody out. So in all honesty, if you made a comment of any kind, I entered you. So this week's entry, okay, again, you must be a subscriber. Give me a thumbs up, and in the comments, tell me what project you are currently working on. What are you making? So that's all you have to do to enter. And I won't be responding to everything necessarily. I try to, but like the questions I didn't, because I'm going to answer all of those questions in a future podcast. So, but I do stick a heart next to them. If I don't respond, I at least put a heart so you know that I have read it. Because I do go through like a couple times a day and read all of the comments because I like to hear what everybody's saying. I did have somebody ask me if this is one question I will answer. Somebody did ask me, will this yarn run? Will it bleed? Probably. I really don't know because I've never knit with this yarn. But I made something very similar to these colors, and yes, it bled like crazy. Because, and that's going to happen anytime you have a yarn, even if it's produced commercially, if it's got a lot of deep, vibrant color, chances are they didn't get all the dye out. Now, I've never had something bleed so badly that it bled into the colors. And there's no light colors in this. Like if there was white or cream or like light pale colors, then I would be worried that the dark colors would bleed into it and make a mess. I have heard of that happening to people. I've never had that happen, thankfully. But this is all dark colors, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. But when you block this, you do want to make sure you wash it really well so that if any of the color bleeds out, that it doesn't, get on whatever you're wearing it with. Because the hitchhiker that I made that was similar colors to this was a Zauber ball, which is a German yarn. And even though it's a commercially produced yarn, it did bleed a lot. I mean, I washed and washed and washed and washed and rinsed and rinsed and rinsed until I finally got all the color out. Because especially, like I said, the purples and the reds really do retain a lot of the dyes. So, I can't say definitely whether it will or not, but I'm guessing this is probably going to bleed some. Just make sure you block it really good and rinse it, if you would happen to win. So that is pretty much it for this week. I don't have a book recommend, but I do have a program recommend that I was watching. I actually sat down and watched, I think, all of the episodes in 1 week because I enjoyed them so much. It's on here on YouTube, and it's called Great Canal Journeys. And it's two people who are in their 80s. It's a husband and wife. They are actors. They're British. If you see them, you will recognize them because his name is Timothy West. He's been in a lot of major shows, especially he's played Edward VII several times, I believe. He's played in a lot of Shakespeare stuff. If you see him, you'll recognize him, okay? And his wife is Prunella Pernilla Scales, who played in the 1970s show called Faulty Towers. I never watched it. I had to Google it to find out what it... I mean, I'd heard of it, but I never watched it, really. But anyway, they've been married like over 50 years, and they own a canal boat. You know, the real long, narrow, like 60-foot canal boats. And this whole series, they are traveling together through the different canals throughout Europe. So a good majority of them take place on the canals in England, and the scenery is beautiful. And then they take a canal trip in Venice, and they do a canal trip in the Netherlands, which was also really pretty. I was thinking of you, Yoka, when I saw that. But anyway, because Yoka lives in the Netherlands, and so they were going through the canals there. They also did the canals in, I believe it was Portugal, and the Lorraine Valley of France, which was also extremely beautiful. So I enjoyed them. There's like eight different series in each of this, which I guess are like seasons, and there are about 3 episodes per series. So altogether there's roughly around 24 episodes. But it's just really enjoyable. They're just a really pleasant couple, and the scenery is really gorgeous that they show. And they stop along the way and see historic sites and learn things about, you know, the different areas. And they do some reminiscing about World War II, which they were children at during. And so it was just one of those really kind of relaxing. I just sat there and knitted my little heart out and watched these beautiful pictures go by. So check it out. It's called Great Canal Journeys. And, yeah, it was a lot of fun. And if you like pretty scenery, it was something to sit back and relax and enjoy. So, that is it for this week. Again, don't forget to enter the yarn giveaway. Click the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and leave me a comment below. Let me know what you're working on currently. Otherwise, I will see you again next week. Thanks again for watching, everybody.